Hey, namaste everyone. Ram here, your Dana Hacker. I'm back for part 4 of Healthy Solutions for Stress Relief. And as I mentioned in the last part, where I was talking about some internal things, some internal processes that actually contribute to us having increased stress perception. Not that something becomes more stressful, but my perception of it becomes more stressful. And I talked about transformational vocabulary. I said that in previous post on social media. If you follow me at Ramos with a tree on Instagram, I did some posts on transformational vocabulary. And so I wanted to go into a little bit more detail about that. The key here is down here where I mentioned that you want to change the quality of the questions that you're asking and statements that you're saying. Because if I change my perceptions, if I change my interactions with the outside world, what questions am I asking, what statements am I making about my situation, then I open the door to new possibilities, to new opportunities for positive growth. So I want to go into details about that. All right, as usual, please subscribe if you're new to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you can find out when we post new stuff. Obviously, thumbs up really helps us. And first of all, you want to become aware of the habitual words that you're using, especially when it comes to describing negative feelings. So if I'm going through a situation, and every time that I go through a situation, I think the same thing. Oh, I can't do that. I can't believe he did this. I can't believe I have to go to work. Why is this happening to me? What type of conversation am I having in my head that actually will be contributing to making my situation more difficult, to exacerbating or exaggerating those or intensifying my negative emotions? So that's key. I want to be very mindful of the vocabulary that I'm using. That's a kind of like Tony Robbins type of philosophy where he's always advocated, or at least I've heard him talk about this before, where he's always advocating changing your inner state. Change what conversations you're having about yourself and about those around you, about the world around you. So what labels are you putting on things and people or situations? So you want to constantly monitor your language. So I want you to keep in mind that every time that you use a negative vocabulary, I want you to write it down. Start journaling, keeping track of, identify those words, at least 3 words that you use very often. So often we lose sight of what's beautiful in our lives. Often I see a lot of people that when you hear them speak about their lives, about themselves, it's always with a very negative connotation. That type of vocabulary is just going to keep attracting negativity towards you. You're not going to open the door to new ways of thinking. In the same way that I may ask, let's see, an example like, I can't do this. I can't see myself in a different situation. How is it that I'm always in this position? Why is my life so difficult? If I keep asking those type of questions in a very kind of negative orientation, in a negative perspective, rather than ask, how can I make my life better? How can I change my outlook to for my job? How can I find time for the things that I love and enjoy? How can I change my perspective to this situation? How can I learn to love this person more, or to enjoy my job more, or to find a better perspective? If I ask the right questions, then just like when you ask the wrong questions, or questions that have more of a negative connotation, then if I ask the right questions with a more positive connotation that actually yield results and change my belief in myself and increase my potential, then I will get those type of answers as well. So again, we don't want to lose sight of what's beautiful. Everybody, it doesn't matter how difficult your life is, there are good things in your life and you have to find them. If I cannot change my life for my job, let's say, my job situation, I need to continue to provide for my family, I'm not in love with my job, but it helps to pay the bills, then how can I find time again for the things that I do enjoy? my family, my friends. I talk about this in the Art of Stress-Free Living. You can get a copy below. I constantly harp on this topic, which is find time for the things that you love. Because if you do, then when you get home and you've done something to nurture yourself, then people around you can get to see a different side of you. So work at replacing those negative connotations, those phrases, those thought patterns with positive ones as much as you can. It's like when you practice, let's say, a simple meditation where you're just focusing on your breath. In that scenario, what you're trying to do is you're trying to bring your concentration, your attention back on your breath. Every time you get distracted, you realize, oh crap, I went off on this tangent. Let me bring myself back. When I'm doing like guided relaxation, I'm constantly bringing the person's attention back to the part that we're trying to relax. If your mind drifts, bring it back to the leg, let's say, to the thigh, or to the back, or to the neck, or to the jaw. And that's what you're wanting to do on a day-to-day basis, is become more mindful. Every time that you notice yourself being negative, bring yourself back to the positive. Change your outlook. Try to be more vigilant in how you're reacting to another. Oftentimes we find ourselves constantly sending these darts of negativity out to somebody. Change that to a more loving aspect. Change that to a more loving perspective, to a perspective that brings you together to that person rather than push them away. Try to focus on the things the good qualities that they have rather than the qualities that you think are negative or bad. We often get caught up in focusing on the wrong thing rather than actually focusing on the good things. Whether it's about my job, my relationship, my financial situation, whatever it may be, we increase stress by how we perceive it and our internal vocabulary. Let's start to work on transforming our vocabulary to actually yield different results. Again, to open the door to new possibilities. It's the whole concept that I've been emphasizing here, which is move away from passivity to activity, become more active, and two, move away from reactivity, constantly reacting to what life throws at you, and start to take a more proactive approach where now you're creating the environment that you want, the future that you want, but that requires sometimes education, coaching, whether it's with me or somebody else. There's a lot of great options. You want to actually seek out that help to be able to plan accordingly, to be able to yield the right actions that will give you the right results. Otherwise, we get stuck in this never-ending loop that is keeping us stuck in this particular belief that is limiting our potential for growth. All right, so in addition to writing words that you use on a regular basis that are of negative connotation, we want to write down 3 words that we could use to replace those. So I want you, every time that you find yourself using that negative jargon, using destructive jargon, limiting jargon, I want you to then think about, write it down. Oh crap, I just used this word. Again, I noticed the next day went by. If you don't do this exercise, you're not gonna start catching when you're doing this. So you write it down, and then you notice that you always use it towards this particular person or this particular situation. Once you identify these words, then start identifying words that you can use to describe that experience in a different light, in a more positive way. And then if you find yourself the next day using the negative word, then immediately replace it with the positive. Keep working towards stripping away the weeds and replacing that fertile ground in your mind with things that are actually going to yield fruits that you want in your life. So you want 3 alternative words, at least 3. I mean, it depends on what are you using. If you're using more words, then you're gonna have maybe more alternative words, but start with at least 3 words that you're using on a regular basis and 3 alternative words that you're going to use to amplify and intensify positive feelings, things that are going to uplift you, that are going to change your perspective, that are going to keep you feeling like your life is better than maybe what you think right now. So this is going to require you to make a conscious effort, because habitual things are very ingrained within you, and they're going to be hard to get rid of. But the more you keep working at it, you make a conscious effort, again, have willingness, like I talked about in the previous video, willingness for change, increasing your willpower. Increasing your willpower requires certain exercises that I teach in my events, for example. It requires certain things that start to amplify the power within you, so it's easier to make this conscious effort. The more you use them, the easier it becomes. It's like anything. The more you do something, the more it becomes a habitual part of your life. If you make good habits a part of your life, it's going to be operating in the background all the time. Now I don't have to think it, I can work on other things. Over time, I become such a deep reservoir of all these great habits that I don't now have to think about, and I become a great role model and inspiration for others because I've become a reservoir of all these great things that are benefiting me and eventually hopefully benefit others as well. Lastly, it's about accountability. So what you want is to find people that you hold in high regard. Some people are close to you, maybe a family member or a friend, somebody that you do not want to disappoint. And what you want to do is you want those people to, at least two key individuals, to point out when you are using this type of vocabulary. So you tell them, look, I'm working on this, I'm working on transforming my vocabulary. It's not just about what you're saying, it's about what you're thinking. But whenever you say something, or they find you reacting in a certain way, you're closing up in a situation, you're getting angry, you're getting frustrated, that you give them the right, without you judging them and getting upset with them, to intervene and jump in and say, hey, you're doing it again. You told me to point it out to you, you're doing it again. You're again you just used this word, or you reacted this way. It could be if you're having struggles at work, for example, it could be a coworker that you respect, somebody you're close to, that they're kind of helping you, guide you, and be a little bit vigilant of when you're doing this. And then in addition, keep them in the loop. What are some alternative words? They could be giving some ideas on alternative words you could use, alternative ways to react, so that in the future you move away from reactivity, and now you're in activity and creation. You're now creating a different alternative reality for yourself. Remember, oftentimes, if I want something to be real, I must first act and imagine and think that it's real. Once I've made it a reality, then now it's a part of me. It's not imagination, it's reality. Remember, concentration and imagination equal reality. I've posted on this extensively. So am I imagining the future that I want? Or am I just going about the day and reacting and reacting and reacting? So make a conscious effort. Develop a willingness for change. Cultivate your willpower so that it's easier to create an alternate reality. It's going to take an effort, but the more you do it, the better it's going to be. Okay? I hope that served you well. I'm Ram, your dating hacker. Have a beautiful day.